Airport staff expelled Ayesha Curry, but regretted it when her husband, Stephen Curry, arrived. The California winter brought a cool breeze as Ayesha Curry walked through the automatic doors of San Francisco International Airport. The clock showed 10:30 in the morning, giving her the 2 hours advance notice she always preferred for her flights. New York awaited her for a prestigious culinary event where she would be the guest of honor, an opportunity to promote her new restaurant and the EPE cookware line she would launch next month. Take good care of the boys, Steph. Don't let Riley convince you to extend bedtime, she had joked with her husband before leaving home. Stephen, with his characteristic calm smile, was focused on preparing for the crucial game against the Lakers the following day. No problem, Chef. I'll maintain order in the Curry household while you conquer New York. The terminal was bustling more than usual. Electronic panels flashed with delay announcements in bright red. A storm on the East Coast was disrupting the perfect schedule Aisha had planned. After facing a considerable line at check-in, where she noticed recognizing glances from some passengers, she received the news she feared. "I regret to inform you, Mrs. Curry, but your flight is delayed by approximately 3 hours," explained the attendant with an apologetic expression. Aisha nodded, accustomed to the unpredictability of travel. "Thank you. I'll take advantage of the time to work in the VIP lounge." Her determined steps led her to the exclusive VIP area of the airport. The manuscript of her new cookbook needed final revisions, and the extra hours would be well spent in a tranquil environment. At the lounge entrance, a young female employee with a serious expression and a badge identifying her as Morgan barely raised her eyes when Aisha presented her premium access card. "Does this card actually belong to you?" asked Morgan in a tone that suggested otherwise. "Yes, of course," replied Aisha, surprised by the question. "I'm Ayesha Curry." Morgan examined the card again, frowning. "I'll need additional identification. We have strict protocols." Aisha presented her driver's license, maintaining her composure. Morgan studied the documents with growing suspicion before calling her supervisor on the radio. James, a middle-aged man with an inflexible posture, approached quickly. "Any problem, Morgan?" "I'm verifying the authenticity of these documents," she responded, as if Aisha wasn't present. "Excuse me, but is there a problem with my credentials?" Aisha questioned, noticing that some passengers were beginning to observe the scene, some discreetly raising their cell phones. "Ma'am, we're not convinced these documents are yours," James stated dryly. "This area is exclusive for verified members." "But I am a member. I travel frequently and have never had problems," explained Aisha, feeling the embarrassment grow as more people stopped to observe. James gestured to a nearby security guard. "Please escort the lady out of the VIP area. She has not presented adequate documentation." Under curious glances and cell phone cameras, Aisha was escorted out, her dignity wounded as she sought a seat in the common terminal, wondering whether she should call Stephen or face this unexpected humiliation alone. The sound of notifications on her cell phone grew while Aisha observed the movement in the terminal. Seated on an uncomfortable bench in the common area, she considered her options. Her initial impulse to call Stephen was quickly suppressed. He needed to maintain focus for tomorrow's game. Instead, she dialed her personal assistant's number. "Melissa, I've had a setback here at the airport," she explained, keeping her voice calm despite the frustration. "My flight was already delayed by 3 hours, but now I need to reorganize some commitments in New York. I just went through an embarrassing situation in the VIP area." While detailing the incident to Melissa, Aisha noticed the glances and cell phones pointed in her direction. Social media, as always, was unforgiving in its speed. The public embarrassment was being shared in real time, creating digital waves that would soon reach their unwanted destination. 40 minutes away, at the Golden State Warriors Training Center, Stephen Curry was executing perfect three-point shots, his concentration unwavering as always. The coach had planned an intensive sequence to 8:20 p.m. prepare the team for the confrontation against the Lakers, and Steph was in his element, communicating with his teammates with that quiet leadership that characterized him. It was the insistent noise of Jeff's cell phone, his agent, that first broke the rhythm of the practice. Jeff, normally discreet during practices, frowned as he checked the screen repeatedly. "Coach, I need a minute with Steph," Jeff requested, his tone urgent enough for the coach to nod, albeit reluctantly. Stephen approached the side of the court, wiping sweat with his shirt sleeve. "What is it? Did something happen with the kids?" "No, the kids are fine," Jeff replied, showing him the phone screen. "But Aisha is having problems at the airport. The video is going viral." On the small device, Stephen saw the image of his wife being escorted out of the VIP area. Aisha's expression a contained mixture of humiliation and indignation. His jaw immediately tensed. How long ago was this? Less than 20 minutes. It's already on all platforms. Without hesitation, Stephen grabbed his own cell phone and dialed Aisha's number, moving away from the court, while the coach cast concerned glances. At the airport, Aisha felt her phone vibrate. Seeing Stephen's name on the screen, she sighed. The news had reached him, exactly what she had tried to avoid. "Steph, I'm fine. You don't need to worry," she began, trying to minimize the situation. "I'm seeing the videos, Aisha. What exactly happened?" Stephen's voice, normally calm, carried a rare tension. "It was a misunderstanding. They didn't recognize me and—" "I'm coming there now," interrupted Stephen. "No, you have practice and the game tomorrow. It's not worth—" "Yes, it is," he stated with determination. "I'll be there in less than an hour." In the airport's administrative office, Marcus, the general manager of the terminal, was staring at his tablet with a grave expression. Messages from his public relations department were arriving, at an alarming rate, all with the same urgency. Critical situation on social media. Ayesha Curry removed from VIP area. "Call Morgan and James to my office immediately," he ordered through the intercom, while preparing for a storm that wasn't on the weather radars but would certainly hit the airport with devastating force. The black SUV parked in the departure area of San Francisco International Airport, disregarding the quick stop rules. Stephen Curry emerged from the vehicle accompanied by a burly security guard, his normally relaxed face now marked by lines of concern. He wore simple clothes, jeans, t-shirt, and a light jacket, but his presence was impossible to ignore. "It's Stephen Curry!" The excited whisper of a teenager triggered a wave of recognition that traveled through the terminal like wildfire. Steph, can we take a photo?" A group of fans quickly formed around him, cell phones raised. "Sorry, folks. I'm here for an urgent personal matter," he responded politely, but without reducing his determined pace. His security guard cleared a path through the growing crowd, while Stephen scanned the environment, looking for Aisha. Simultaneously, in the administrative office, Morgan and James were facing the most uncomfortable moment of their careers. Marcus, the general manager, rotated his monitor so both could clearly see the images that now dominated social media. "Do you have any idea who you just treated as an imposter?" Marcus's voice was controlled but sharp as thin ice. "This is Ayesha Curry, award-winning chef, entrepreneur, TV personality, and Stephen Curry's wife." Morgan's face visibly paled, while James adjusted his defensive posture. "We were just following the established security protocols. argued James without conviction. She didn't present documentation that we considered. She presented multiple identifications, interrupted Marcus, increasing the volume of the video where Aisha was clearly seen offering her documents. And, even if you didn't know who she was, the treatment was inexcusable. In the terminal, Aisha stood up upon spotting Stephen approaching. The moment their gazes met was captured by dozens of smartphones around, instantly creating another viral moment. The hug they exchanged conveyed both relief and shared indignation. "I can't believe you actually came," whispered Aisha. "I didn't even consider another option," responded Stephen, keeping his arm protectively around her shoulders. Marcus, followed by a public relations assistant, quickly approached the couple. "Mr. and Mrs. Curry, I'm Marcus Wilson, General Manager of the terminal. First, I would like to express my sincerest apologies for the unacceptable treatment that Mrs. Curry received. Could we talk privately, please?" Stephen exchanged a glance with Aisha, who nodded slightly. They were led to the same VIP room that had been denied to her earlier, now without any obstacle. Minutes later, Morgan and James entered the room. Morgan could barely raise her gaze, while James maintained a rigid posture that verged on insolence. "I want to deeply apologize, Mrs. Curry," Morgan began, her voice trembling. "I made a terrible mistake by not recognizing you and, worse still, treating you with unjustified suspicion." Stephen observed, his normally gentle eyes now penetrating and challenging. James cleared his throat. "I regret any inconvenience our adherence to protocols may have caused." "Protocols?" Stephen's voice, although soft, carried a weight that silenced the room. "I would like to know if these protocols are applied equally to all passengers, or if my wife received different treatment for some specific reason." The tense silence was broken by Aisha, who lightly touched her husband's arm. "Perhaps this is an opportunity," she said, her voice firm but conciliatory. "An opportunity to recognize our unconscious biases and grow from them." 3 hours later, the announcement finally echoed through the terminal speakers. "Attention passengers of Flight 1482, bound for New York. We are now boarding priority passengers at Gate 27. Aisha and Stephen walked side by side through the airport corridor, now accompanied by Marcus and a small administration entourage. The transformation in treatment was remarkable, from being escorted out of the VIP area to being received with all possible honors. "Your seat has been upgraded to first class, Mrs. Curry," informed one of the assistants, handing her a new boarding pass. "And we have a team ready to receive you when you arrive in New York." Stephen held Aisha's hand firmly, while passengers around maintained a respectful distance, although many couldn't disguise curious glances. The story had already spread throughout the entire terminal. Marcus positioned himself before the couple before they reached the boarding gate. "I would like to share with you the action plan we are implementing," he said, opening a folder. "In addition to the disciplinary measures already discussed, we are redesigning our entire training program on diversity and unconscious bias for our staff." Aisha briefly examined the document, an idea forming in her mind. "I would like to participate," she stated, surprising both Marcus and Stephen. "Not as a victim, but as a collaborator. I believe that sharing my direct experience could make the training more impactful." "It would be an incredible honor," replied Marcus, visibly moved by the unexpected proposal. A small group of reporters, who had somehow discovered the incident, waited near the boarding gate. With Aisha and Stephen's approval, Marcus allowed a brief interview. "Mr. Curry, how did you feel seeing your wife being treated that way?" asked a reporter, microphone in hand. "Initially, I felt anger," admitted Stephen with his characteristic honesty. But Aisha reminded me that we can transform difficult moments into opportunities for collective growth. Mrs. Curry, what do you hope people will learn from this incident? Aisha smiled serenely before responding, that we all carry unconscious biases. The important thing is not to pretend they don't exist, but to recognize them and actively work to overcome them. A hesitant figure approached from the periphery of the group, Morgan, with a nervous but determined expression. Mrs. Curry, may I speak with you for a moment before your boarding? She asked in a low voice. Aisha nodded, moving slightly away. With her. I want to thank you, said Morgan, her voice firmer now. Not for your understanding, which is already extraordinary, but for making me see something in myself that I needed to confront. We all have blind spots, Morgan, responded Aisha, gently touching her arm. When you finish your training, I would like you to send me an email. Perhaps we can stay in touch. The final boarding announcement interrupted the conversation. Stephen hugged Aisha firmly, whispering words of encouragement. Before departing, she shared with him an idea born during those tumultuous hours. What if we created a foundation focused on combating bias in public spaces? Transform this experience into something bigger than ourselves? Stephen's smile was his most eloquent response. Weeks later, the airport held its first expanded workshop on diversity, with Aisha participating virtually from New York. Stephen, after leading the Warriors to an exciting victory dedicated to his wife, was preparing for the official announcement of the Curry Foundation for Inclusion and Awareness. And Morgan, now part of the ambassador team for the airport's new training program, shared her experience with colleagues, transforming a moment of error into a lasting lesson about recognition, reparation, and genuine growth.